Hello and welcome to another video with your host Tajmir the Random Fan. In this video, we're going to be talking about the licensed video game problems and what is causing all of what is going on with the waste of the licensing issues from developers, the license holder are not giving the developers the freedom to do whatever they want, and other sorts nowadays. Let's just begin. Yes, that was my actual face at the beginning of the video, but it really doesn't even matter now. Let's just explain. I looked up licensed video game problems, and I was trying to find out what is going on here, and why are most video games not still polished enough to justify to know that if they're still fun no matter what. Like, what is even a problem here? So in this video, I need to talk about what is causing all this crippled old creativity and the lack of care and polish for this type of reason. Licensed video games often face significant challenges that can lead to poor quality. One major issue is the tight deadlines imposed by the need to tie the game's release to the launch of a movie or other media. This can result in rushed development and a lack of attention to detail. Details to be addressed by the developer and publisher, even licensed holders. Take Hot Wheels and Nick Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway for example. You're gonna be catching on soon. Additionally, the focus on licensed property can overshadow the game's gameplay, leading to a mismatch between the game's genre and its source material in the process. For example, there is a superhero movie might inspire a game that prioritizes the action over story, which can be unsatisfying for fans of the original material who watched the movie. Another problem is the involvement of the license holder in the game's development, which can impose restrictions on the game's content and story, limiting the creative freedom of developers. This can also lead to the hurting and the obliterate rules or restrictions that do not align with the source material, causing frustration among fans. Just for example, I'm going to be talking about the troubles to a toy manufacturer which really do not want a developer to be creative. This being Mattel and Milestone. When Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 was introduced, Milestone had listened to fans. However, completely dropped the ball on what the fans of Hot Wheels really wanted. More cars from the early 2000s. We do have that. Like Hot Wheels Veterans from Track Attack and World Race. Hell, even Hot Wheels beat that for heck's sake. But what is even the problem here? Well, a problem looms on the horizon, meaning whatever the perceived issue was and what Hot Wheels fans spew at Milestone, they cannot do creativity as due to Mattel's rules and restrictions on what Milestone has to do. Milestone cannot deliver on it. That is the main problem. The limitation to creativity and the sheer lack of caring about to fans really hurts. While Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 itself is rather solid, despite I just looked up the game, it's just another kart racer. But it's not just that. It built upon the foundation of its predecessor with several improvements and additions though. while it's not while it's still technically a good game, it's still good. However, there were some issues play game that the fans really that the fans really wanted. Having actual Mario Kart style power ups, having the track builder to be improved upon, like adding reskinned Hot Wheels logos and other sorts. Not to mention that choosing and picking a Hot Wheels car that everybody actually loves. It could be a fan favorite. It could be a new model that everybody actually liked. Radar Ranger would be one of them. One user said that one user is hoping that Milestone would actually add Radar Ranger to the new car roster. Unfortunately, Milestone didn't deliver on it as pressing issues going on at Mattel. Get seriously catching on. I hope. Oh, did hope. Yes, catching on. Yes, catching on. Whatever type of request that the fans wanted that and Milestone wanted to do it, they can't do that. As remember, Mattel is the license holder, and and Milestone is not owned by Mattel. Remember that. Remember that. Remember, the involvement of the license holder in the game's development really can cause complete restrictions, including try to being creative and try to change the gameplay up a notch. Like try to bring back what was then from Hot Wheels Beat That or Bash Arena or Velocity X. X like take for example, I'm a game developer and I pitch an idea to Mattel about making a Hot Wheels vehicular combat game. Unfortunately, Mattel would reject that idea and instead focus on what Hot Wheels is supposed to be about. Out. That out. It's called being creative, and unfortunately Mattel doesn't want this type of creativity as they don't want it. All they wanted to do was to promote their actual diecast toys, and yeah, they still do that. However, there's still one question: if they want to advertise their Hot Wheels toys, then how come they're uploading Hot Wheels ads on their YouTube channel? Eh? And why are there still advertising commercials surrounding the Hot Wheels playsets in cars? Ours. Don't seriously right now. Seriously right now. This only ends up having games development suffer more than being creative. And Hot Wheels Beat it was actually a very creative idea using the Beat That name and then slap it onto a game that is supposed to have that and expand upon what Beat That was all about. The seriously, what a cool concept. And Hot Wheels Unleashed, however, it might be a creative name and it might be something that it might be creative. But they had to start out small. And when the sequel was released, everybody expected that new future ideas among fans could actually do something to spice up the gameplay. However, if the license holder rejects this type of idea from a developer, or don't forget, the developers are listening to fans. However, they got to consult the license holder. Yes, you are. Yes, it seems that you guys are catching on. More importantly, you get a few license holders that really do not like that really blocks off creativity. To me, Lacking creativity really hurt the game's chances in the marketplace. You have a developer who wants to do their own thing with toys and Nickelodeon characters and source material, but they got to make a game to appeal to kids and such, just to be more in line with the in-game advertisement or other media ads in the process. And what's Hot Wheels Unleashed's core purpose? It's supposed to be an arcade racer. It's an arcade racer, and it's more than just a kart racer. Supposedly, and while it's still good and decent, it this is only a first part of the test to see if everybody actually cares about Hot Wheels still, and everybody actually do care. But also didn't help matters, which is what that in order for games to succeed, they have to spice up the gameplay. However, due to the license holders, due to license holders like Mattel, who are reluctant to put creativity into the core gameplay of the experience of the game, like Hot Wheels Unleashed, they rather say, "Oh, sorry, but you know the rules. We want our cars in mint condition and we want to advertise them just to be more in line with the commercials, such as in-game advertising. We understand that, but is that really going to be a good help? Actually, yes and no. Actually, but it can be a good idea, and it is a great idea to advertise the toys though, but unfortunately some problems can really be backed down with the lack of creativity and care actually. And and honestly, like most other licensed games, they don't like most licensed games, they stray away from what they're supposed to be for and what gameplay and fun are supposed to be about. Oh, actually, let's look at Hot Wheels World's Best Driver for example. Yes, that's another one. Hot Wheels World's Best Driver. It was a total departure from the main line of the Hot Wheels racing games and just capitalized on the sports trends and such. The last remind you, that was the last Hot Wheels video game, and that was from 2013. Now, and yes, that's right, that's right. This and despite this, the biggest offender the biggest offender has to be the restrictive rules. I mean, you have a lot of developers who want to do their own thing and to appeal to Hot Wheels fans and more and such, but they can't because all the license holder wants to do is to have developers continue to use the same overall concept and styling of whatever games that they have, just to be more in line with the previous titles or what Mattel or anyone else is actually impressed with. To me, this is a poor reason and a this is a poor idea, and this is the stupidest idea in ever. Did seriously restricting creativity and not letting a developer do what the hell ever they want is one of the most dumbest things ever. Moreover, the perception that licensed games are generally of lower quality has led consumers to be more critical and less likely to purchase them, further impacting their success. However, there are expectations, such as games based on long established franchises, that do not impose unrealistic release dates. The issue of licensing laws also poses a threat to the availability of licensed games. Once the licensing period ends, developers are often unable to update or maintain the game to keep it compatible with newer platforms, leading to the removal of games from digital stores. That's another issue with licensing issues, especially licensed cars. Many racing games have been and and will be delisted due to expiring vehicle licenses or probably licenses from other companies like Viacom or Mattel. Usually after 5 or so years. That's another issue that's plaguing it. And also and also because of what happened with Milestone and Mattel, and because Mattel turned to Game Mill and Outright Games, they can no longer update Hot Wheels Unleashed to Turbocharge anymore. They are unable to update or maintain the game to keep it compatible with newer platforms or what the current platforms they're currently on. To us, this is one of the most dumbest moves Mattel has ever seen. Saying that Milestone is too good for them and decided to reject to continue working with them. That is a huge letdown, and this only hurts more than helping Hot Wheels Unleashed. Not a bright future. Not a bright future for the Hot Wheels Unleashed franchise, and I believe that the games were doomed from the start. Hot Wheels had a history of trying to capitalize on what the Hot Wheels racing games have been in order to imitate other kart racers or bigger driving games seen from other publishers. Not only this, but the games often looked underwhelming in contrast to the recent games out there. This was also further amplified by Metacritic or the press, with middling reviews or unfavorable reviews from many critics. This is one of the more core reasons on why a licensed games keep getting keep aren't existing anymore. While some licensed video games still do exist, however, either they're generally favorable or mixed or average reviews, meaning developers and license holders had to do better than this. Yes. Seriously, they have to do better than this. Despite these challenges, some licensed games have been well received, such as those brands on franchises like Pokemon, Star Wars, and Lego, and Hot Wheels. And actually, for Hot Wheels Unleashed, it received a genuinely possible reviews, possibly a critical acclaim at this point, which have managed to balance the source material with engaging gameplay. Licensed video games continue to face significant obstacles, but there are efforts to address these issues, such as the suggestion for a continued maintenance clause that would allow developers to keep their games updated and available. So, probably maybe Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 may have a continued maintenance clause. I don't know, but we'll just have to see if Mattel or Milestone could come back together. But at this point, will Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 receive more new content actually? Or we'll just have to see what Mattel goes. Oh, and if it happens, Mattel better not be making the same mistake again. I mean, they have a developer who wants to do their own thing, but they have to allow the developers at Milestone to do the freedom to do whatever they want. And this is the creativity is what everybody all loves. Seriously, a lot of people are actually talking about the problem of licensed video games. A lot of websites are discovering and discussing the problems of licensed games. They tend to be mediocre at best, but why? Quality of the game, the reputation of the name. Most video games sell fall into least of one of the two categories. Game developers could take some time to develop an original property made with care for the end product and the idea of developing a brand new franchise. Seriously, let's look at one of the examples like Lego 2K Drive. Despite the awful monetization and microtransactions, it's even though it received mixed or average reviews, some people actually some people actually like the game though, even though it was mixed. But to me, it's very favorable in my opinion, because you get to make your own vehicles, and it's also a destructive racing game of all time with power ups. And this is what Hot Wheels Unleashed would have had if Mattel actually allowed Milestone to spice up the gameplay while still continuing to do in-game advertisement for the Hot Wheels cars. That would have been the best solution, and it's honestly the best solution. And, I mean, it's a real shame that other licensed video games are not getting the fair love they deserved, and that's being due to games being rushed, not getting some not allowing the developers having creativity and such. They most of these things hold back what are making the licensed video games supposed to be like. And whatever the perceived issue was, the license holder are honestly at the fault of this. You have publishers and developers who wants to do their own thing, like do some great decent marketing and such. But unfortunately, all they are doing is just being rushed and getting the games out, possibly at a good or unpolished state. 8. Seriously, license holders like Mattel should need to do better, and also need to give the developers a thing to do what they want. But instead, all they did is make the developers and publishers waste the license. And honestly, it was a huge waste. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, despite it's a great game though, but unfortunately, probably a somehow kind of waste on the Hot Wheels license. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem, waste of a good license, honestly. Hot Wheels World's Best Driver, waste of a license. Honestly. Mattel should have done better than this. Honestly, I'm kind of displeased with what the companies are doing. Video games are hard to make, and it takes a lot of time and money doing them. Licensed games were made almost always to capitalize on a different media release of said licensed property. But unfortunately, during game development, they would go into development hell, and probably get an unpolished experience. It's very very common that most licensed video games get horrible middling reviews from critics and such, and the license holders really needs to do better. The license holders, they need to do better than this. Even everyone on Reddit even said that at best. So in the end, while we don't live in a perfect world, and games don't always have to be perfect, they can still get issues. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 fixed one of the issues that fans of Nickelodeon and 90s Nickelodeon shows actually had with the previous two Nickelodeon Kart Racers games. And thankfully, Bantam and Game Mill and Nickelodeon actually fixed this with Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway, having a more number of characters from the 90s and 2000s and 2010s Nickelodeon characters like Camp Coral, SpongeBob, Cat Dog, Ren and Stimpy, and more. However, during core gameplay, during core gameplay, power up physics and also some other physics can also be addressed with flaws and such. Just to be safe, the AI in Nick Kart Racers 3 now have some sort of insane rubber banding for some odd reason, like what you see in Mario Kart Wii, having seen and when you're bumping racers, you rarely tend to fall through the course. Meaning you get some missing parts of the track which are invisible where you are able to make a mistake. And honestly, the game is probably not in a good polished state. It proves the project was kind of rushed. Especially if they're made in Unreal Engine 4 or 5. Seriously, not only games were not polished enough to justify the price tags that they're currently on, but they should have had some time but they should have had some more time in development from the developers. That's and this is the major criticisms I had to address when it comes to licensed video games. You have certain developers who wants to do their own thing, but has to have some time and money in development, and needs to have some more time in development too, just in case if there are any physics issues and more need to be fixed. But unfortunately, there weren't enough time to fix them. Seriously, most issues can really be addressed. Unfortunately, when it comes to addressing them, developers nor publishers ain't gonna be listening because honestly, they move on to certain projects and probably due to the licenses being expired. That's the issue. That's another issue. You tend to waste a good license on something, and now it's on the verge of getting delisted or being removed from digital storefronts. Issues. In conclusion, licensed video games, despite some of them being good and some are bad, but the issues tends down to one of the things I just mentioned. Not having some time in development, limiting the creativity and the creativeness of the developers to do whatever they want and more. This really puts the games on horrible state and spot. With new licensed video games, or what is supposed to be new games coming out by indie teams alongside with new games coming out during development, new games have a lot to prove that they need to have some time in development. More time in development. Game Mill, Mattel, Outright Games, and especially to other toy manufacturers and especially companies who keep rushing developers to finish the game immediately. Seriously, don't make those same freaking mistakes. That will cripple the experience for fans, players, and casual audiences alike ever again. I hope you guys all enjoyed this freaking rant. And see y'all next time.